Hi, everyone who has already joined. We're just going to wait a few more minutes. I know that some people are already also on the YouTube live stream. So thank you for that. We're just going to wait maybe 2 or 3 minutes, and then we're going to start officially the event. Hi, everyone. So we're just going to wait a few more minutes, and then we're going to start. Thank you for those who are joining on YouTube. We see you. We're just going to do maybe like 2 more minutes, and then we're going to officially start the event. But thank you for joining. Okay, everyone. So I think we're going to start the event now. Hello, good evening. Thank you so very much for joining. My name is Mara Cordade. I'm 21 years old from Romania. Currently, I'm a third-year student specializing in public international law and human rights. I have been an active member of ILSA since my first year at the Hague University of Applied Science. So it's a very important part of my academic journey, and I'm proud to say that I have been elected as the head of main events for this year. For those of you who are joining and are not familiar with ILSA, ILSA stands for International Law Students Association, and it is a study association within TUAS. Our goal as a team is to bring ILSA, the Hague chapter, to its full potential while creating opportunities for its members and enriching the international law student community with events such as the one who we have organized tonight. Now I will give the floor to my two co-hosts, Carolina and Altamash, to start the event.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us today this evening for this event. My name is Altamash Khalil. I'm from India and I'm a second-year law student.
Hello and welcome, everybody. My name is Carolina. I'm from Italy and I'm also in second year.
So guys, as you already know, the topic of today's event is enhancing group work productivity. During our years at the Hague University, you'll come across various situations where you have to work within groups, from projects to debate teams to moot courts to student associations, etc. When we were in our first year, just like everybody else, we faced many challenges when it came to working with other people. Working with people whom you do not know, who come from different backgrounds, who have different personalities, is always very difficult. Ergo, the ILSA Made Events Committee decided to organize this event in order to help all the students, especially the first year students, to enhance their group work productivity. So, in today's event, you'll learn all the tips and tricks we wish we had known as first year students.
Mr. Dundunnen kindly agreed to be our guest speaker for tonight's event. For those who don't know him, Mr. Dundunnen holds an LLM in European International and Comparative Law from Maastricht University and is currently a lecturer in international law and legal skills at our university. He currently teaches courses on the law of international organizations, international security, legal analysis, and decision-making skills. He's also the Year 1 tutoring coordinator, a study coach, and the secretary of the program committee for the law program. Previously, he was an editor and writer for the Atlantische Perspektief, a Dutch journal on international security, and in 2001, he conducted an internship at the European Parliament. Tonight's event is going to be divided in two parts. Firstly, a 15 to 20-minute presentation on group work by Mr. Dundunnen, and then a Q&A session with both Mr. Dundunnen and us students. But before we pass the floor to our guest, we would like to start tonight's conversation through a Menti. So let me just open that. I don't know if you have ever worked with Menti, but you just need to go on menti.com, use this code, and you'll get to this slide. And you can vote on how you feel, and then it's really quick. There's only 2 voting slides, so we can get a feeling of the room. Let's see. All right, so I'll just wait one more minute. I see many of you are comfortable and good with group work. That's great.
We have also posted the link for Menti in the group chat, so maybe it's easier for you to also access it through there. But thank you so much for those who have answered already. It's very interesting for us also to see your responses.
Okay, so we have about 11 people. I'll go to the next slide and then come back to see if it changes. So here we have the most difficult things about group work. Most people think it's communication within the group. Then we have 2 people for dealing with conflicts within the group and keeping up with deadlines. Nobody seems to have a problem with dividing tasks equally. All right, I see a pattern here. Okay, let's see if this one slide changed. Okay, yeah, that's great. So I see nobody thinks dividing tasks equally is hard. Well, that's good, I guess. Okay, now we can start with the presentation and give the floor to our guest, finally.
Thank you very much for your kind words. I'm very happy to be here and to see you all, even though it's through a screen. I hope you can all hear and see me. It is evening, so it's dark behind me. I'm sitting in front of a window. I just hope that tonight will be an informal session, and I hope you will interrupt me whenever you have questions or comments or suggestions. Perhaps it's good then to use the raise hand option in the Teams icons you see in front of you on the screen. So feel free to interact. I don't want this to be a boring lecture or something, so I just want this to be an informal chat with you, because this is an important topic, and it's not like I know everything about it. I need to develop on this also still, and I will continue to develop. But I do think it's a very important topic because, yeah, we all know we are part of teams on a daily basis. But we do run into challenges regularly, as we say already, as you said in the Menti results. You do face regular challenges, and so do I. So I want to share tonight with you what I've learned, how to deal with them, and perhaps that can also inspire you. But I also look forward to hearing from you if you have used different approaches and how they have worked, because different people use different approaches in different settings. Yeah, let's see how that what we can learn from each other tonight. Perhaps a few remarks then. I'm not just here because I happen to be a tutor in the law program and a tutor coordinator, but also because in my work, of course, I'm part of a team of staff members of the faculty, which consists of smaller teams. So it's not just that I see my tutor group function in a certain way, and they bring issues to me when there are issues, but also myself participate in a team. And so in several teams, and in my previous job, different teams, they are multicultural, diverse people, as has been indicated already. You will have different cultural backgrounds, different personalities, different genders, ages. And so typically it's a team that you do not choose, but that you are assigned to. And that's typically what happens at the university. You don't choose, you're simply assigned to a team. So how do you make the best of that? First, I will say a few things about working in teams in general, and then I would like to say how to best address challenges in my view, and what I've seen happening and working. And then perhaps a final remark about one of the things brought up in the Menti results, deadlines. And I hope also to address the issue of communication, because that's also, I think for most of you, a key issue, kind of communication in the team. So I'll try to address all of them. Just remind me if I forget something, and I'd be happy to address the topic. So first of all, working in teams is a reality. Even though some of us are more comfortable working independently and working, on our own towards a certain goal or before a certain deadline, teamwork is a reality and it's not going to go away. It's not just here at the university, but it will be the same case in your internship. It will be in your job later on. So it's important for us to prepare for good teamwork and to make the best of it. Moreover, I think that teamwork is even increasing in importance. I think there's very few opportunities where you will not work in teams. To give an example of the increasing importance of teams, in our faculty, we are moving towards result-responsible teams. That means that teams themselves, so small teams, not the entire faculty, but the small teams of which it consists, those small teams will be having larger responsibilities over time. Currently, the organization is pretty hierarchical. We have a team leader and a program director that are responsible, to which we have to account for our work and our performance. And in the future, the role of the team leader in our organization may diminish. And you see that happening in more organizations. You see teams becoming more self-steering entities, meaning that teamwork will become ever more important. And that begs then the question, how are you being assessed on your job? With us, we will move towards peer feedback, meaning that less will depend on the evaluation by your superior and more will depend on evaluations by your peers. So peer evaluations are there to stay. You're doing them now. If you're in the law program, you know them, regularly occurring in projects, and they're there to stay. You will continue to, also in your future career, continue to be asked to give feedback to your colleagues and to receive feedback from them. So it's really good if you start getting used to them and acknowledging at the same time that they're not easy, because it takes courage to address someone and point out his or her not just strong points, but also his or her perhaps weaknesses or points for improvement. And it also takes a lot of maturity to receive feedback that may not only be positive, but also constructively critical, and sometimes not even constructive. So that's the reality. Teams are there to stay, will be the format for your work in the future very likely, and are increasing in importance. Now, why do we have then teams? Because if it's happening, what's the reason? It is because teams come with inherent benefits. That's why we work in teams. Obviously, there's economies of scale. So, and together you can produce a greater output. You stand stronger. It's just a quantitative argument, but there's also qualitative arguments for teamwork. You have, if a team is diverse, you will have diversity of input. You will have diversity of views, of thoughts and contributions that enrich the process, that enrich your thinking process and contribute to a better product and a better output. So that's another advantage of having teams. Teams also create legitimacy, in that if you as a team agree on something and you present that to a larger team or to your superiors, it carries more weight. You have more leverage. So if you compare that to an individual's opinion, you see the difference. You see that when you as a team agree that something should happen or should change, or that something simply a good suggestion, a good idea to implement, for instance, in the business, in the process at your company, for instance, then as a team you have more obviously more inherent weight than any individual opinion would carry. So it carries in that sense more of a legitimacy. Together, it's carried more broadly, the suggestion and the proposal. Problem with teamwork, of course, is that there are inherent challenges and problems. And I think that's why it's very topical to discuss this now, because particularly in the law program, as a tutor, I see that this is the time of the year when tutees come up to me and to their other tutors saying, we have a problem. We run into difficulties. Something's not going well. There may be various challenges, and I will address the most important ones, also as indicated by yourself. And so this is the moment to think about them and to see what ways there are to address them, and how can we solve them if possible. There may be various problems. You've indicated some of the members may simply not be contributing, or may not contribute sufficiently. A team is as strong as its weakest link, so that affects the whole team. That's a problem. Another problem may be that members may have serious disagreements amongst each other, even conflict. A tutor may not always know, but or your supervisor on the job may not even know, but there may be tensions within a team that obviously detrimentally affect the team work and output. There may be just chaos. There may be no coordination, no proper leadership, or no proper communication, like you identify yourself, communication as being vital, being the glue to teamwork. And that all may be lacking. That may all happen, perhaps several of those issues. And then the question would be, how do you address those challenges? And there's no, golden recipe. I obviously don't have a quick fix it for all of these, but we can think of each one of them and address them, because I think there are ways ahead and forward. I think it starts by rephrasing the question. I think we should not ask, how do we address a problem in our group, but rather, how do we prevent problems from happening? If you prevent a problem from happening, you would not need to address it, obviously. And so that is the first step we need to take. How do we prevent issues from happening? And only if that fails, we would need to address them. So let's see how we can prevent issues from happening. I think, first of all, some basic rules of human interaction apply to group work. And I think we all agree on them. A basic level of respect, listening to each other, listening before speaking. And if you don't like something that's being said, perhaps the way something's being said, because people have different styles, let's just count to 10. I think that's a simple, recipe for avoiding unnecessary tension. That would be a first thing. I think basic rules of just human interaction apply to also to preventing problems in the group. I think that's the first starting point. And always realize that these are words, and you may know all of this theory, but eventually we have to put it to work. Eventually we have to do it. And I think that's the hardest part. Just like when we talk about deadlines, I think we have some time to talk about deadlines later on. All of us know we need to adhere to deadlines. All of us know then we need to plan, but the execution of the plan is what it comes down to really do it, to just start doing it. So there's limits to what we can achieve tonight. But let's first make clear that we are on the same page in terms of this, these thoughts and the theory, and the lessons we learn from practice. And then tonight when we leave, let's agree with ourselves to start doing it. I think that's what we need. So basic rules of human interaction, that will be the first starting point. The second point is build a team. That's really a problem in times of COVID. We're just this loosely scattered group of people all over the world, meeting on Teams, on Blackboard Collaborate, on Zoom, behind a screen, not personal, very little interaction. Oftentimes, cameras are off, mics are off. Let alone you would have any more social interaction. Still, we have to find ways to achieve just that, human interaction. So what I've been doing, for instance, with office mates of mine, we used to be 3 in a room at the university. We now do online drinks. So what we do is regularly on a Friday evening, we just call each other on WhatsApp video, and we raise a glass of wine or whatever we drink to the screen, and we say, let's say cheers to the week. Let's welcome the weekend, and let's check in with each other. So we're asking, how's your week been, how you're doing, and you hear each other, and you don't talk about work, obviously, only. So you would talk about what's going on in your life, what's going well, what you're enjoying, etc. But also perhaps more challenges, more like challenges you're facing. So that's important. Also for you, I think. If we want tutor groups also and other teams to operate smoothly, I think we have to invest from day one in team building. Again, options are more limited, but still try and think of ways that we can build team cohesion. There may be different ways. Perhaps you don't want to have a drink behind your computer. Perhaps you have no other ways of still in times of COVID to bond and to meet each other and to really get to know each other a little more as just human beings. Because what I've learned from that is, as soon as you get to know people as just a fellow human being, you allow that person more. When later on in a work situation you get into that person raises his or her voice again, or is grumpy the other day or whatever, you can take it better. You know that person from other moments as well. You've seen his or her face in this more informal, nice setting. You know how he or she can also be. So you just allow each other more. You can be more generous. So I think that's a second important point, team building. The third important point is, perhaps still on the team building, that it's a related point. You may know of the so-called Belbin test. Perhaps your tutor has done it once, has had you take that test. The Belbin test is a so-called group roles test, not free of charge itself, but there's an alternative, and I can post the link in the chat if I have access to the chat. But it's essentially a website called 123test.com. So the digits 1, 2, and 3, and then test.com. And there's an option for the so-called team roles test. And there you individually fill out the test. You take the questions. You choose an option for each question, and it eventually then results in a personalized profile. Perhaps I can show you quickly what the result would then look like, because I've got a file open. Can I share a file here quickly? Okay. Do you see now a pie chart?
Yes, sir, we do.
Yeah, good. So here you see then what result would come out of it. It's personal for everyone, of course, but you would then get a pie chart that ranks the various roles in a group you can have in order of importance for yourself. So there in the example here, you will get more of an explanation, of course, but here you see an example of this person that took this test. You would see that one role in a group can be a second role, so this person scores highest on this being good at sharing. Second role would be contributing to team cohesiveness. Third role is completer, so someone who completes tasks. Fourth is executive, someone who executes, is good at executing tasks. Then you see experts, someone who is substantively very strong. But you also see people, other roles like innovator or driver, explorer, analyst. These are very different roles that some of which sit well with you and others don't. You see this person scoring very low on driver, innovator, and explorer, but high on chairperson, team cohesive, contributing to team cohesiveness, and completer. So that's just an example of a result you would see, and I think what you then can do is share those results in your group. And then you will hear that different people have different results. And that means that it doesn't only confirm, obviously, that we are different personalities, but the lesson we can learn is that it can benefit the teamwork. It can benefit the larger group, and therefore it benefits all of us. Because when I'm a chairperson, when I'm good at chairing, but not good at driving, it means that I do need someone who pushes forward the process before a deadline is, for instance, coming up. I may be good at generating ideas and score high at that, but I may be very poor at putting them onto paper or giving words to them. So what do I need if I score higher on generating ideas but low on meeting deadlines? I need someone who's good at keeping deadlines. And if then somebody in the group shares his or her outcome, and that outcome is I'm actually good at keeping deadlines and keeping perhaps the team also to it, then you know that in the group there's complementarity. You complement one another. And me as for instance, as score high on perhaps on chair, I would need people who complement, because I have, my role has certain pitfalls, and I need somebody who reminds me of deadlines, gives expert input, and contributes in other ways to the group process and the product. So that's really very useful. Also, the Belbin results allow you to better divide up your work. So this tells us that we, for instance, for a project task, we don't have to, if we're a group of 13 people, we don't divide up a group task into 13 pieces and everybody hates it. But instead, we think of, okay, you're good at, according to the Belbin test, you're good at editing, at completing. Why don't you do the final editing? And somebody else, like 3 or 4 others, do the research. So let's divide it up according to our strengths. And those strengths you find through the Belbin test. So I think that's another recommendation I would make. Finally, as to team building, there are even tutor groups and other teams that make it a little more formal, that agree to a code of conduct. So if you think that's a good idea, you can do so. From the start, from the beginning of the year, you can agree to jot down the key ideas of good teamwork, of proper communication, timely, respectful communication, and everything you think is needed for successful teamwork and for output, and write that down and agree on that in a code of conduct. What's the benefit? The benefit is that you have something black and white, and that you can hold each other to it. As soon as you've all agreed to it, later on you can remind each other of your commitment. So that's something done also in some tutor groups. So what do we have to address challenges? We say, I suggest to apply basic rules of human interaction. Second, build a team. And third, I would recommend to stay goal-oriented. Sometimes we get bogged down in the process and we think, oh no, this teamwork, always those same faces in those meetings. But look beyond that, if that's bothering you sometimes. Look at what lies ahead. Look at your eventual goals. What does teamwork try to achieve? Credits for a project, for instance, good grades on a project, or later on, perhaps even, for instance, also recognition, being appreciated, but also being successful in your job later on. And teamwork is only a means, a tool to get there. So if we feel uncomfortable sometimes with how a team is functioning, think of it as just another tool and not the end goal. It's just a tool to get something done. And then we can also swallow more of what's not going perhaps as the way we want it to go. Let's stay goal oriented. A fourth recommendation would be to to try and continue to enjoy the process. See what you need to still enjoy teamwork. If that is to meet sometimes more informally, if that is to meet, if COVID rules again allow to meet in person, that would be great. Of course, that makes it much easier to look each other into the eyes and actually have a face-to-face meeting. That is great. That cannot happen often now, but still try of ways to make it enjoyable for yourself and for each other. It's inevitable, so let's make the best of it. Fifth, try and avoid being suspicious of others. Sometimes some of us are some have that more than others, are sometimes a bit suspicious of somebody's motives, or why is somebody saying it this way, or why is he or she saying it that. When we have built a team and we know each other better than just the incidental remark, that prevent a whole lot of bad faith thinking. But also try and tell yourself, people are in this team for a certain purpose. They all want to get the grades for the project. They all want to succeed. So they don't mean wrong. We're in this together. We're on the same page. So if you try to allow yourself a more positive mindset, I think that will greatly benefit also the pleasure of teamwork. Then if problems occur and all of the preventing has not worked, then it's time to acknowledge the problem and don't let it simmer. So face it. Don't deny it. Problem is, how do you acknowledge it? So try and avoid the wrong time and place. So if a team or team members are under time pressure or other pressure, you feel a certain pressure or tension, don't raise sensitive problems, obviously. Try to find the right place and right time. You can tell if somebody's in a bad mood, even on a screen. To an extent, I think you can notice from body language how people are doing. So try to raise the right time in the right moment. You may need a more informal setting again. Second, avoid finger pointing. Let us try to limit the role of emotions. That's not to say you have to switch off emotions, because it doesn't help if you come across as a robot. We're humans, and if we show that, people recognize themselves in you and they can identify with you, and also with your concerns you're raising. What helps me is to speak in the we form, as in, for instance, when there's a problem, we as a team are failing to meet our common goal, and even you can even try and make it, if you feel comfortable with that, you can even make it more personal, saying, for instance, I ran into this, and there's something happening in the groups. For instance, there was no timely delivery of certain contributions, and I now feel I cannot do my work. What can we do about it? So you don't point fingers at others, you just only reveal what you are feeling. And then open the floor to thoughts, open the floor to contributions, and let people contribute and be heard. And try to come to some sort of agreement. So try not to leave the meeting or the session while this is simmering or isn't resolved. Try and come to some sort of agreement. And it may be an agreement to, okay, let's have another meeting about it, but at least some sort of agreement to move forward. I think these are the most important things I can say about group work. I've already spoken far too long. Allow me to say one more thing on deadlines, because I think there was a topic. So communication, I think I've addressed. Deadlines, I think, is still a question out there. Challenge with deadlines is that there are so many of them from different places. On the one hand, you have a project deadline, you have a conflicting assignment deadline, you have from your job on Wednesday evening, you have a deadline, you have all sorts of deadlines. and then you don't keep track of them anymore. So the first thing that helps is to bring them all into one place. So make sure to have one. I have a very old-fashioned paper agenda. I keep it all in one paper agenda. I'm really 20th century, but some of you are much more modern and keep it digital. As long as there's one place where you have all your agendas, items, your commitments, and your deadlines available, and make sure during your working day to have access to that agenda, to see constantly what's going on. When is my next meeting? When is my next deadline? Obviously, prioritize the first things first and the most important things first, and then plan accordingly, depending on how much time each task needs. And the key thing, as I already said, just do it then. Just, even if you don't like it, see what you need. If you need a nice cappuccino to get you going, then get your cappuccino first and then just get going. And then reward yourself afterwards again. If that takes another cappuccino, so be it. Reward yourself, and then you work step by step. It's not an endless process you don't want to do, but just a small step. And you say, okay, in 10 minutes, or when I've completed this simple subtask, may take half an hour, then I'll reward myself again. As soon as we notice that we cannot possibly meet a deadline, inform others in your team right away, and make sure to then try and contribute to the solution. So don't toss it over the fence and let others solve it, because they won't like that, and that will be held against you. Let's together then find a solution to that problem, and see if we can in any way work around it. And that would be the most important for me now. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. And also thank you to everyone who has joined. I'm very happy to say that now we're more than 30 people. And thank you for the lovely feedback on all the social media platforms so far. Today also we asked via our Instagram page, we asked you to ask us some questions, and we got some really good ones. And also thank you to those who have put some questions through the YouTube live stream. We saw them and we will answer them for sure. Also feel free to join the conversation. We want this to be as interactive as possible. Don't feel free to speak up, or if you feel more comfortable, just ask the question in the chat. We'll be on top of everything. But I'm going to start with something that we received on Instagram. Considering that English is not my first language, and sometimes I'm in a team with native speakers, how do you move past that language barrier? I think this is more general, but it definitely is suited to a group work activity. So maybe you can tell us some tips, and then we can also contribute to the conversation.
Yeah, would it be an idea? Because let me say first that I don't see. I have access to the chat here, so I'm afraid I cannot see anything. So thanks for bringing this question to me. But I've spoken so much now. Perhaps it's an idea for you guys to perhaps share your experiences with all of this, including the language barrier you may or may not face, and then I would be happy to contribute next.
Great. And if you don't mind, I will start with this. I think that the most important tip that I can give is just to be patient and not to be too hard on yourself. It's not normal for us to feel comfortable from the beginning. And for example, in my first year as a student, I definitely felt at some time overwhelmed and maybe a bit pressured, or thought that if I'm going to make a mistake, that I'm going to be judged for it. But that is truly not the case. And if we were to compare it with a real life situation, I think it's also important to point out how we get the driver license, for example, because you study for it, you know it, but you only get better at driving through experience. So I think it's the same with language. You just have to be patient. You just have to keep doing it, and it will be just easier and easier. I think that's just my best tip. Just don't go hard on yourself. Be patient with yourself, and just keep doing it. Keep practicing it.
I have a tip. I would say that ask. Don't let things get lost in translation. If you're not sure if someone meant what you understood, make sure you ask, because misunderstandings in a group are really, really hard to deal with and to get over. So just ask.
Atamas, you'd like to go next, or?
Well, my wonderful colleagues have summed it up so nicely that I cannot find, something to add. I completely agree. Like Carolina mentioned, that you should ask uh, when you don't know something. It's absolutely fine. It's the best way to solve your problem. And as Mara mentioned, that it's always really nice to practice because practice makes perfect. So it's always good to, keep on practicing. That's how you'll get better and pass that hurdle.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, also, like Mara is saying, don't be too hard on yourself. That goes for many of these things, I think, including in terms of language. I'm Dutch. I will always, for the rest of my life, remain a second language learner of English. So I keep on learning English from Mr. Worster, Mr. Dahl, and Miss Lewis, and all of the native speakers in our team. So what I do is just listen, and I parrot a little. I just copy paste what nice phrases they have, and then I just sound more English. So that's great, right? So you just learn a great deal from native speakers. And that's just so it's really nice you're in this together, and they happen to have that advantage, but the other way around, they will never be able to speak your language as good as you will. So don't feel any less than somebody who happens to be a native speaker of English.
So the next question is what to do when someone in group work does not participate or does not listen to the chairperson.
I think I can go first with that one. In my experience, I think the best approach to this is just to speak with this person in private. Just don't put him or her on the spot. Don't make things like awkward or for him to feel bad about it. I think it's best if you just address it in private, and maybe you start also asking, why is this happening? Like, is it something happening within your personal life, or are you not feeling comfortable with the approach that we have taken as a group? So I think it's also best to just, as we said it like a lot of times so far, to just ask the questions and don't be afraid to be not naggy, but just like be sure that because everyone has like a background story, everyone has things going on in life which are not related to university per se. So I think it's important to be sensible to that and to be understanding of everyone's situation, even if we're not approaching the teamwork the same. I think it's important to just like reach out in private and be understanding at the end of the day.
I agree with what Mara said, but I would like to add something that actually tutors told me and that I have learned during my first year, and that is when someone really does not want to participate and you have to carry their weight, you should do something about it, but like either talk to the tutor, because it's university, it's not high school anymore. Everybody should be somewhat independent and responsible for what they do. So it wouldn't even be fair that a person that does not participate in a group task at the end of the day gets the same results as everybody else that participated and took time to do that. So it is important to understand the person and talk to the person, but then if that is not enough, it is also good to find a solution that might be a final one, but yeah.
Yeah, I do agree. The first and foremost thing is be considerate. As Mara mentioned, try to know what's going on. Always talk to them, know their side of the story, know their perspective, understand, sympathize with them. And if that doesn't work, and you've been doing that, then I mean, you can. I believe you can go to the next level and bring in your tutor and address this issue with them. Try to keep things as amicable as you can.
Yeah, I would like to add that before you would escalate to a tutor or a superior, you may want to appeal also to someone's sense of responsibility, because it's in his or her interest also to succeed on a certain task, on a project, or whatever you're doing and producing as a team. So you can also appeal to that, I think. The student has voluntarily chosen these studies, has shown commitment by doing so, So there may be valid reasons why he or she cannot contribute for this particular moment or this particular task. So indeed, hear him out, or him or her out, and then appeal to his or her sense of responsibility that will be there. And so you may want to eventually. The problem is, of course, you have no really power tools as a chair, as a student in a tutor group, in a project group. You don't have any power tools, and so like a boss later would have. So that is different, and that's why you may need to escalate to a tutor eventually. But before you do so, indeed talk to that person, perhaps individually first, and do give that person the choice. Can you have it become clear? Can you produce or not? Because if not, we need to find an alternative now. And if it's more of a sustained issue, perhaps that person should, become aware that eventually he or she will have to quit. And that's a very hard choice. But at some point in the year, we do see students making that choice. This may just not be the right program for them, for instance, that they change programs to another program and are become much more happy there. So that's in everybody's interest, I think, eventually. But that's a very hard choice and not the first thing you would do, of course.
So moving on to the next question, it's how to deal with two or more people who want to be in charge and constantly overlap. So I'll take that question. So what I believe what we did in our first year tutor group was we divided those roles per quarter. So we have 4 quarters, and if 2 people really want to become the chairperson at one time, our tutor, what she did was she said, for this quarter, this person can have the role, and the following quarter, the roles will change. This way, everybody gets an opportunity to participate in the task, and even the people who are a bit shy because it's the university starting, it's like a new step. They would also get an opportunity to indulge themselves in these scenarios where they have to be on top of things and at times provide solutions and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing. I mean, we were in the same tutor group last year, so we have the same experience with this. But another thing is there's always a possibility to have to co-chair, to have 2 people being chairperson at the same time. And that is not even a very bad perspective for me, because that is just, you would share your responsibility with someone else and have a less heavy weight on your shoulders. So that's my tip.
Yeah, perhaps to add, I think it's important that everyone in the team knows what a certain role entails, not just what you are expected to do, but also what you're expected not to do. So the limitations to your role. So as soon as you're not a chair, that you step back and that you allow the chair to function, actually. I think that's also important for all team members to agree on and to actively make happen, make possible.
Moving forward, the next question is how to deal with conflicts between people, what to do if 2 people hate each other but have to work together. I can start on this one. Hopefully there's not a situation about hate per se, but I think it's important to, in a way, separate personal feelings and actual work, be that like university work, be that actual like job things to do. I mean, of course, it is normal for us to be affected by the things that are going on in our lives, but in the same way, we have to separate the 2 of them, and we have to realize that in a place such as like group work, personal feelings shouldn't matter that much, and our personal opinion or view on someone shouldn't in any way change how the group work dynamic work, how everyone in the end wants the final product to be good, wants the work to be successful and to be appreciated. So I think it's more about focusing on what is the actual purpose of the work and not that very much on the personal feelings that you have towards someone in your group. But that's just like my personal way and personal opinion on this.
Yeah, Mara is absolutely right. Professional, personal, always separate. I mean, it's not necessary that you have to like them. It's fine if you don't like. If, for example, I hope it doesn't come to this, but even if it does, it's fine if you don't like somebody's personality. But that doesn't mean it should affect your overall task or your or should make the environment bitter. So it's always nice to keep your mind separate. And if, like, everybody has something to contribute to the group, everybody has some skill, everybody has some potential to be able to take that work from a 5 to a 9, let's say.
Okay, so the next, if Mr. Dandanan doesn't want to add anything.
That's one more thing, because conflicts are, of course, one of the hardest things. So that's why I started my recommendations with let's try to prevent them. So I think it's really important to think in terms of prevention rather than having to solve it, because by the time you reach the need to solve things, to fix things, you're sometimes too late. So that's what I also would like to advise. Invest in prevention of conflicts by team building.
So the next question is from the YouTube stream, and it is, how do we point out our colleagues' constant mistakes, such as grammar or content-related mistakes, without sounding offensive or disrespectful? I think this is hard because most people feel personally attacked in this kind of situation when they make a mistake and someone else that is pretty much on their same level points it out. So I wouldn't actually know how to answer, but maybe one of you can help me out as well.
Well, if I can, I think it helps a great deal if you know each other a little better. Hence the team building and the importance of building a team and getting to know each other beyond the tasks and beyond the once a week half an hour meetings or something you may have. If you get to know each other better, if you invest in team building and bonding, you will be able to allow more from your peers. So there are, for instance, so the example I gave with my colleagues, my roommates at the office, we see sometimes errors of each other, and we are on such a good level with each other. I find it hard to explain, but it's just a feeling that we know each other so well that with a big smile I can point out something. Oh, that's typical. They would tell me that's typically Dutch of you. That they would tell me, and I have a big. I also, there's a big smile, and then but meanwhile they did correct me. That my English was, for instance, a Dutchism. So it helps if you have that attitude in the group and that mindset that will allow for much more correction of each other. And think also from the good to the room for improvement. So always try and find in each other's contribution something that is good, and even only the attempt made can also be worth commenting, and congratulating. So and then try to collectively work to improve. So avoid finger pointing, but say, okay, this is a contribution to the group. Let's, as a group, try and make this better. And so don't exclude someone who's made an error. So you're now kind of, you've missed your chance. You no longer taken seriously. We'll take it from here. That's not helping. So try and avoid that. Have that person then instead learn from the improvement process and then avoid making a similar mistake next time.
Okay, so moving on to the question that was asked in the chat. It's, do you think everybody is meant to work in a team, or working alone is better for some people? So I'll try to take that question first. Well, I myself first thought that I could, do everything really great, and myself alone, I can make deadlines work and stuff like that. When I came to the university, when I started working in groups of 15, 16 people, I realized when you work in a group, you get new ideas. When you're working alone, you have a fixed mindset, and at times you get so pressurized, you don't get fresh ideas. But when you work in a group, you get different ideas from everywhere, and that, in a sense, you may not realize, but it implicitly helps your whole project, or the whole task that you're doing. So I can't really answer that if anybody's equipped to do something like working alone or not. But yes, people have preferences. But I have realized over time that working in a group is constructive, and it helps you. And even when you receive those constructive criticism, it's really helpful.
Yeah, so to extent you are of course free to choose your own career path and see if you're uncomfortable with teamwork, to see if there's opportunities for you to find work that's more individual. I just think that um, typically, at some point, almost every job entails some form of teamwork and cooperation. And if we think of teamwork, as I pointed out, and as Altamar is also saying, as having benefits, as enriching your own thinking process, your own knowledge, and even your personality, then we may get to enjoy teamwork more. It may be about finding a balance, because if I'm in meetings all day with the team, I go crazy. But if I have a 1 hour meeting like now in an 8 hour working day, it's different. So try and find the balance for you that keeps you sane.
Thank you. And now moving again to one question from YouTube. Also, I think this will be like the last questions, just so you know that if you want to ask anything, please do it now. But for the question that we received from YouTube, how should we deal with a group which is particularly silent and never states their thoughts and opinions, totally relying on the chairperson's decision? Maybe Mr. Dendanen can take this one first.
Sure, I'd be happy to. It depends on the reason, on the cause of that problem. I've experienced, for instance, in a tutor group at the beginning of the year, that people first look at others because they don't want to be the first to speak. Let the others speak. It's maybe a matter of shyness. It may be a matter of politeness. It may be a matter of lack of self-confidence. And so to find out what the reason is, build it up step by step. So I would, for instance, try, and that's something I've learned, not to hold all discussions in the larger tutor group, like that 15 people. That's sometimes already to some people a large group, but to break it up. So, for instance, to pair up people, to only have them talk one-on-one, and then find a low level, an easy topic, not something difficult, but to something, for instance, talk about your favorite book or what did you do last week, and then one-on-one, and that helps someone already get started on expressing his or her opinion, and then build it up to a larger group. And then at some point people will feel more comfortable in speaking up. And so sometimes it takes time and effort to get there.
All right, thank you. So the last question, one of the last questions, is about MUN. And that is, as I am a first-year student, can you give me some tips regarding the upcoming project, MUN? And then we had another question which we can link, and that was tips for a good opening speech, also for MUN. So maybe Altamas, our winner from last year, can give tips on that.
So, okay, thank you for that. I personally have done quite a few MUNs, more than 15, 16 MUNs. So I believe the best way to start your opening speech, for me personally, there are three things. You hook your attention, your listeners' attention. and then you grab, you make sure you keep on to that attention, and you deliver. What I mean by deliver is once you've hooked and once you've grabbed your listener's attention, you try to guide their ideas or guide their thinking into the way you want to do. Because in MUNs, you're divided into different countries, and different countries have different perspective and have different diplomatic relationships. For example, Pakistan is not an ally of India. But when in an MUN setting, you have to make sure that Pakistan, in some way or the other, has to stay in line with you and votes for your resolution. So it's always really nice to make sure that you guide them in the ideas that you want to engender in their mind.
I have two tips. One is pay attention to what the other people are saying during the MUN, because that is when you get to present your arguments and you get to rebut what other people are saying. And the second thing, which really, really helped me last year, is have everyone's resolution and position paper at hand. Highlight things that might be good for your position, highlight things that you might want to go against, but have that next to you all the time. And take notes of what other people are saying, because you might just forget.
Definitely. And another tip that I have for the opening speech, I think especially since we are discussing about MUNs, don't be afraid to go that extra mile. Maybe not dramatic is not the best way, but if you want to be a bit more theatric, or if you want to be a bit more, to just play that emotional side, that emotional part, do it. I think it definitely, as Altamash has said, is definitely about hooking the audience and keeping sure that the interest is up throughout the opening speech. As I'm sure you know that you will be hearing like lots of them. So it's all about that impression that one person who has done a bit more than the others. So definitely don't be afraid to go that extra mile and just practice and practice. Try to learn it by heart if you can. So it's like if you feel more comfortable with it. And yeah, as Carolina said, just be prepared. I think that's the best tip, to be prepared for it.
Yeah, these are all great tips. I totally agree. And don't forget that an MUN is, of course, not exclusively legal. We are law students, you are law students, but it's a political thing. So you can indeed be a little more sweeping in your statements, a little more theatrical, like Maris is saying, about larger goals for humankind and things you'd like to achieve. But as law students, I think you do have an added benefit, an additional strength, that is the legal argument, because the United Nations, of course, is also inherently legal in the sense that it is founded by legal documents, and it's developed through the law, and it spits out the law all the time. So when you have legal arguments and you've done your research well, you will have a benefit over those who don't have that legal knowledge. I think that is an added value for law students. It's an additional powerful instrument you will have.
We have a follow-up in the chat, and that is, would you say that trying to hook the audience gets more difficult on an online setting?
Well, definitely, for sure. Yes, I do agree with that. It gets, it's more difficult, but then at the same time, if you look at the positive side, it's challenging. And in my perspective, when you take on a challenge, it helps you develop. So, if you're able to hook your audience in an online setting, then you know what you can do when it's in person. It's for sure really difficult, and a couple of tips that I use myself, I incorporate in my speeches when I'm doing it online. I always make sure that my eye contact, my eye line is on the camera and not on the screen itself, because if it's on the camera, for the other person, it's like you're looking at them. But if you look at the screen, it's not, for the other person, it's not as if you're looking at them. And make sure that your hands are near your chest so that they can see it. You're doing some hand gestures, because I feel personally hand gestures are important, but not too much, not a lot. But then at times, just to give emphasis on certain things, it is really important.
Yeah, I mean, also having it online, you can have your speech in front of you, which is a great advantage. And it's pretty important to just prepare the document well, highlight words that you want to emphasize on, um, have a big font so that have like 14 so you don't have to go next to the screen and read, have a good spacing between lines, all of these things. Make pauses when you want to pause, just go to the next line, have a space in between. I think all of these things make it a bit easier. But yeah, that's just a trick.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think that for online speaking, still the basic rules of a good speech apply, and are only enforced. So conciseness, good pace, clarity, repetition of points. If you don't have visuals to support your speech, like for instance, I didn't use a PowerPoint, so at least I try to repeat kind of the key points and say where we are, and moving on now to this point, kind of those connectors and those topic sentences that are very important. So yeah, I think those basic rules still apply to online speaking.
Yeah, thank you so very much. I think this was pretty much it. Just a quick note on all the MUN questions. We would like to formally announce now that we will again have the event for the MUN simulation for all first-year students within TUAS. That will be happening in January. And also for the first time, we will also have a due diligence project simulation where we will be giving out tips for all the upcoming projects within the university. Thank you so very much for Mr. Dendanon for agreeing to participate in our event and for the great contribution. Also, the event was live streamed, and the live stream will remain, the recording will remain on YouTube. So if you want to revisit the information, if you want to go over it once more, you can definitely do so. Thank you so much for the active participation. I hope you enjoyed your evening with ILSA, and just keep an eye on all our social media platforms as we will be announcing even more events coming to you very, very soon. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, and thank you all for organizing and for all the participants who have joined.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Have a lovely day, everyone.